What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, and in this video, we're going to be discussing 7 reasons to avoid getting the Nokia G400 5G. So without further ado, let's get started. Now to clarify, overall, I think this device is actually pretty good, and especially considering that it is meant to be an affordable phone. So obviously you're not spending $1,000 on this device, so you shouldn't expect to get all the features that you'd get with a phone like that. But on the other hand, I wouldn't want anybody to buy this phone expecting that it has more features than they're thinking it does have. So I want to go over all the various shortcomings with this device so that there aren't any potential surprises. Now coming in at number 1 is that there is no 4K video recording with the Nokia G400 5G. Now you might wonder, what's the point of having 4K video recording if the display on the phone itself is limited at 1080p? And overall, the main reason why you'd want to be able to record in 4K is that you can upload your videos online in 4K so you can watch them on a 4K TV. Now at this point, in 2022, most people do have 4K TVs, and most of those TVs are smart TVs. So if you want to watch the content in the full resolution that the TV is capable of showing, then you will have to record that content in 4K. Now, I personally do not record in 4K because I feel like it's not really relevant to the type of content that I create. But on the other hand, if your current phone does have 4K video recording and you're expecting that every device has that feature, then just know that you're not getting that here with this phone. Now, coming in at number 2 definitely has to be the build materials that we're getting here with the device. Now, the good news is that considering that it is made out of plastic, it is of decent quality. But on the other hand, if the phone that you currently have is made out of metal, or maybe glass as well, then just know that the materials you're getting here will not hold up nearly as well as time goes on. So I definitely recommend pairing up this phone with some sort of case, just so that everything doesn't get all scratched up. Now thankfully, the display panel on this phone is made out of Corning Gorilla Glass 3, so that does make it extra durable, so at least when it comes to that, you're probably pretty good to go. That being said, I still would recommend putting a screen protector on the phone itself, but definitely for the other parts of the phone, you're gonna make sure this plastic is protected by some sort of case. Now coming in at number 3, definitely has to be the notch on this device. Now, if I would have predicted several years ago on whether or not we'd still see notches in 2022, I probably would have made an incorrect prediction because as you can see, we have one with this phone, and there's also a variety of other lower end budget and affordable smartphones that also have notches. So definitely pretty disappointing. I know for a little while there, we were getting a lot of mid-range and affordable devices that had hole punches in the display instead of a notch, but it does seem like at this point, brands are kind of bringing back the notch, for better or for worse, and that's pretty much the way things are, unless you want to spend a lot more money on a more expensive phone. Now, in addition to having that water drop notch, with this device, we also have a bit of a thicker bottom bezel, so that's also another shortcoming of the design of this phone, but I suppose things are the way they are. Now coming in at number 4 is the processor that we're getting here with this device. So with the Nokia G400 5G, we are getting the Qualcomm Snapdragon 480 Plus 5G processor. Now, there are some good things about that processor. As the name of the processor and the phone implies, this device is compatible with 5G connectivity. Now at this point in 2022, I think you certainly can get by with just 4G LTE, but on the other hand, if you're going to go through all the time and effort of buying a brand new smartphone, you may as well get one that does support your carrier's latest and greatest network. So in that regard, I am glad that we are getting the processor that we are getting here. But on the other hand, the processor itself isn't necessarily that fast. Now, compared to some phones that are even cheaper than this device, the processor is decently capable. But compared to a phone that's $1,000, for example, you're definitely getting what you're paying for here. So definitely don't buy this device expecting to get a phone that's going to be very fast, and especially over a longer period of time. I'm sure after a year or two, the phone will definitely be slowing down as apps get bigger and bigger and demand more power. So just know that you're not getting necessarily that premium of a processor. Now, I did run a benchmark test using Geekbench 5, and I'll show you the scores from that test right now. But essentially, as you can see here, I got a single core score of 547 and a multi-core score of 1669. So what I recommend doing is running this test on your current phone and then compare your scores to these scores to get a better idea of how the Nokia G400 5G compares to your current device. Because it certainly is possible that this phone could be slower than the phone that you currently have. Now for most tasks, such as phone calls, text messages, watching video content, and occasionally going on social media, you're not going to really have a problem with the processor that we're getting here. It will be plenty fast for all those various things. However, if you're somebody that's constantly on your phone, maybe your phone is a big part of your business, for example, or maybe you are playing high-performance games or things like that, then I definitely think that you're going to quickly realize that this phone isn't necessarily that fast. So is the power and speed that we're getting here with the Nokia G400 5G adequate for most people out there? Yes, I would say that is the case. But on the other hand, I wouldn't want anybody to buy this phone expecting that it's something that it's not. Now coming in at number 5 definitely has to be that there is no HDMI out via the USB-C port. Now on some more premium Android devices, you can actually plug in to the USB-C port with the right adapter and have your display be mirrored onto a TV. Now, I personally find that feature to be one of the best aspects of Android devices, considering that we don't get that with iPhones. Now, that being said, there are a lot of Android phones that also don't offer that, and even ones in the premium tier. So for example, the Pixel 7 Pro from Google does not have HDMI out. However, pretty much all the S-series Samsung phones do. So if you've seen people before take their Galaxy S22, for example, and plug it into a display, and you're expecting that every Android phone is capable of that, then just know that you don't have that ability here with the Nokia G400 5G. Now, I think that's especially helpful if you're at a hotel, for example, as you can't really bring like a Chromecast or any sort of Wi-Fi compatible device because there is no local network there to use. So really anywhere where there's a public network, you pretty much have to use HDMI out if you want to have any of your own content show up on a TV. Now, I wouldn't necessarily expect this with this device, considering that it is a very budget phone, but also with some more premium Samsung devices, you do get also a desktop mode called DeX. So that's another thing that even if this phone had a desktop mode, you couldn't actually use it with any sort of display because the phone itself doesn't even have HDMI out. So while HDMI out certainly is not a feature that I expected this phone to have in the first place, it still is something that I definitely wouldn't want anyone to expect it to have and then find out after buying it that that feature is not here. Now coming in at number 6 is that there is no wireless charging with the Nokia G400 5G. Now this is another example of a feature that you typically would not find with lower end devices. However, there are a few that are out now that do have wireless charging that are pretty much in the same price range and compete against this phone. For example, the T-Mobile Revel 6 Pro 5G, which is exclusive to T-Mobile, does actually have wireless charging, and that phone is pretty much the same price. In fact, it does have a lower MSRP than this phone. So I would have really liked to see wireless charging with the Nokia G400 5G. I definitely think that is a very useful and practical feature. And pretty much any phone that I use that has wireless charging, I do tend to actually use it in real life. I have a variety of different wireless chargers around my house, also on my nightstand, and it's certainly very convenient just to place your device on that charger and not have to worry about actually plugging into the port itself. Another benefit too of having wireless charging is that if for some reason your USB-C port were to get damaged, you at least have an alternative method to recharge the device, at least up until you can get that port repaired and get the phone back to normal. So overall, there's really no upside to not having wireless charging, and I certainly wish we did have it here with this phone. And coming in at number 7 for the reasons to avoid the Nokia G400 5G, it definitely has to be that there is no stereo sound with this device. Now, we do have one speaker on the bottom of the phone, and it does work really well, and we also do have the earpiece, which comes in handy for phone calls, but on other more premium Android phones, you actually get audio coming out of both the speaker and the earpiece when doing things like listening to audio or watching video content. The main benefit of that is that you're just getting a more immersive audio listening experience since you have multiple speakers doing the work. But let me show you a demonstration of what I'm talking about. So I'll turn up the volume here. So it is day 1. And you can see that when I hold my finger over the speaker, that is where all the audio is coming out of. Now, if this phone did have stereo audio, I would be hearing audio from this video out of both this speaker and that speaker. So it's kind of a little thing, but at the same time, it does make a pretty big difference. But this concludes my video on 7 reasons to avoid getting the Nokia G400 5G. Again, overall, I feel like this is a pretty good device and a decent value considering it is meant to be an affordable phone. That being said though, I certainly would not want anybody to buy this phone expecting features that are not included here. So hopefully this video gave you a better idea of what you're missing out on and also features that you would get if you were to pay more money for an Android phone. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely give it a thumbs up if you did. This is Kevin here, and I will see you in the next one. Take care and have a great rest of your day.